One day it happens. You think, man, what happened to me? As you catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror. Your shirt is tight in all the wrong places and loose in the places it should be tight. And for the past several years, your energy has slowly been decreasing. You decide enough is enough, and you go back to what used to work. Maybe you dig out the old high school football routine or pick up a popular strength program like 5x5, push-pull legs, or a full body routine. And for the first several months, it goes well. You're hitting the gym hard, you're staying consistent, your waistline is feeling looser, your shirt sleeves are filling out, and your energy is coming back. You're starting to feel like yourself again. But then, inexplicably, almost out of nowhere, something starts to shift. You start to notice that your strength plateaus. You're no longer getting stronger. You're no longer building more muscle. The fat loss has plateaued, and potentially your joints are starting to ache as well, and maybe the energy that once was progressing in the right direction has started to slip as well. This is where you double down harder. You go to the thing that you know, the thing that's always worked in the past. Eat less food, do more cardio, drink more caffeine. And when that doesn't work, you start to question, am I just too old for this? Is this just how it goes when you get 40, 50 years old? The good news is, no, you're not too old for this. The problem is, you're using a routine that wasn't designed for your body and your stage of life. In today's video, I'll explain what's actually going on and the key shifts or changes the guys in their 40s need to make to ensure that they get lean again, stay strong, and start feeling capable again without overhauling their schedule or burning themselves out. So the reason that the programs that worked well for you in high school or in your 20s don't work quite as well for you in your 40s and 50s isn't simply just because you got out of shape when you stepped away from structured training all those years ago. It's because during that time period, your body was also changing underneath the hood. So you still have the motivation, right? You still have the desire to be strong, capable. But your hormones have shifted, and not just testosterone. Things like growth hormone and IGF-1, things that help you lose fat and build muscle. Your insulin sensitivity also decreased, something that also affects your ability to lose fat and to build muscle. Your stress increased. Your quality of sleep also can decline as you get older as well. And when the quality of sleep declines, that can mess with your hormones, that messes with your recovery as well. So the programs that used to build you up, in that context, tend to beat you down. Because a program is only as good as what you can recover from. It's not just your hormones that are changing either. Also, your connective tissues are not as resilient as they used to be as well. You've probably heard of the muscle memory concept, right? Where your muscles come back faster. Once you've built the base of muscle mass or strength, and you take some time away and then you start training again, that strength is going to come back a lot faster than it took to get it the first time around. But your connective tissues are a little bit different. At any age, your connective tissues are going to adapt and get strong much slower than your muscles do. And as I've talked about in previous videos, this is one of the reasons why guys using anabolic steroids often are at increased risk of having muscle ruptures, tendon tears, etc., because the muscles get strong much faster than they normally would. You build more muscle mass faster than you normally would, and the tendons and ligaments can't keep up. Furthermore, anabolic steroids also tend to weaken them even further, or the tendons and ligaments even further than they otherwise would. At 40, it's not just that normal tendon and ligament adaptation either that happens. You also have less elasticity in your tendons and ligaments than you did in your 20s and your 30s. And this is why, if you've been away from training for a decade or more, you try to come back in the gym and you remember what you used to be able to do, and you figured that I should be able to do that again, and you figure, well, it's going to take a little bit of time, but I should be able to get back to what I was doing, following that same progression. Issue is, those tendons and ligaments are going to remind you really quick that it's been a while since you've done that. And you're not just dealing with the normal prolonged period where tendons and ligaments take longer to get strong, as happens with a younger individual. You're also dealing with slower recovery from the workouts as well, and decreased elasticity. So it doesn't mean that you can't get strong again, that you can't lift heavy, that you can't lift explosively, but how you get there has to change. Another thing that you might notice when you come back to the gym is that maybe you do have some of that muscle memory. Maybe you do start gaining some strength, start feeling better, but the one thing that you don't feel is you don't feel athletic. You don't feel springy, you don't feel bouncy, you don't feel like you got that pop, you got that spring in the step, you don't feel light on your feet. Sure, you can maybe do a heavy bench press, maybe you can do a heavy deadlift, but the athleticism, the agility, it's just not there. The reason for that is that those fast twitch muscle fibers, right? The ones that are responsible for maximum strength and speed, power, and agility are the first to atrophy, the first to get deconditioned. Because, not only because of age, but also because after sports, most guys don't do those things. And for the same reasons that you can't just jump right back into a standard routine while you have a very busy schedule and expect that these, routines that are optimal for, strength or performance are going to work well for you in the context of your life. Those tendons and ligaments that we talked about earlier also are going to be involved in you doing explosive types of stuff like jumping, sprinting, the Olympic lifts. Those are the areas where that tendon elasticity, right, is very important. The tendons are actually what allow you to recoil faster off the ground and help you to actually have a little bit more of that bounce. And so if those are a little less elastic, you got to structure your training a little bit differently. It doesn't mean that you can't do explosive stuff anymore, and in fact you should do explosive stuff, but you have to structure your training a little bit differently than somebody who's younger or doesn't have quite as many responsibilities, has more recovery time than a guy with a full-time job, a mortgage, and a family and kids that he wants to spend time with. Now, probably the most significant piece in all of this, and one that often doesn't get addressed directly, because we often default to things like the hormones, the busy schedule, bodies getting older and stuff. One of the things that's driving hormonal decline, one of the things that is making it harder to have the energy to get in the gym, makes recovery harder as well, is stress, right? And stress, not, as I said before in the video, it's compounding over time. It's not just the stress that you have today, it's the stress you've been dealing with for years, right? Because when you were in your 20s or you were in high school, the training itself was your primary stress. Sure, you had school and there would be some stress when you had to do an exam, or if there was, some kids who were, picking on you at school or something, that could be stressful, or, trying to impress the girl, get her out to go on a date, that'd be nerve-wracking or something like that. But all in all, the stress was pretty brief. You had all of your needs met, right? You had, hopefully, you had food on the table on a regular basis, right? You had a safe place to go come home to at night. You didn't have to pay bills. You didn't have to keep the roof over your head. You didn't have to put food in your mouth. All those things were already provided for you. And so your primary stress was the training itself. Now you've got that stacked on top of all those things I just listed. You got the family, you got the career, you got the mortgage to pay. You have a lot of guys like to be involved in their community as well, whether it's coaching, their kids, softball, or coaching their kids, Little League, coaching soccer or something like that, I've had clients in the past, they coached cross country, right? And so you have all these stresses stacked on top, and that's one of the reasons why your routine has to be structured a little bit differently, and you have to intentionally go about managing the way or putting intentional pieces in place in your day-to-day routine to manage that stress, right? One of my favorite quotes, and I've talked about this in previous videos, was from Bruce Lee, where he says, "Don't pray for an easy life, pray for the strength to endure a difficult one." That right there is the epitome of stress management, because stress doesn't go away, right? Stress is going to be there, but the difference between guys who are breaking down in their 40s and the guys who are still strong and still capable is a big piece of that is being able to manage their stress effectively, right? Not pretending it doesn't exist, not pretending that they're superhuman, they can just handle limitless amounts of stress and just be able to bounce back for that, but actually creating things, structure in your day to minimize and eliminate unnecessary stress, because a lot of the stress that's in our life is unnecessary. It's how we respond to the environment, right? Not everything that irritates you or that is vying for your time needs your time or your attention or your energy, right? Now, I don't want to turn this whole thing into a philosophical discussion on stress. We can maybe save that for a future video. I'll probably definitely do a video on what those specific stress techniques look like. But all this to say that when it comes down to it, you've got your hormones that are changing, you've got increased stress, you have less time, you have increased recovery needs on top of that. So not only do you have less time available, more things competing for the attention, more things chipping into your recovery, you also need more recovery as an older individual. So how do we fix that? What works after 40 is not compensating for inconsistency with massive amounts of volume or intensity done infrequently, like train 3 hours one day to compensate for not doing anything all week, right? It's also not trying to be what you were in your 20s, right? It's being the best version of yourself right now. Not trying to compete with the younger guys, trying to lift more weight, to feel or prove that you still got it. It's also not babying yourself, right? It's not about avoiding effort either, right? It's about having more structure, more thought put into how you are producing it. Because at the end of the day, a good workout isn't one that makes you tired, isn't one that makes you feel sore and beat down. It's one that makes you better over time. So in your late 30s, 40s, and beyond, sustainable strength, athleticism, and muscle are built through structured rotation of different training stimulus. There's a lot of good programs, right? But they tend to progress you in the same sort of stress consistently over time. Sure, you'll have deloads, you'll do the periodization thing, but when you're doing the deload, you're kind of going backwards for a period of time, and then you have to try to catch up and build yourself up again. I'm going to show you in subsequent videos how you can avoid that, and also be fit across a wide variety of domains, not just in one. With hybrid strength training, we rotate between blocks where we're focusing on muscular endurance, so like calisthenics, gymnastics type stuff. We have blocks where we're focusing on old school bodybuilding to build up that base of muscle mass for increased strength potential. And muscular endurance helps you to recover faster from your workouts. Then we have dedicated strength blocks, powerlifting. This helps to increase neural drive. It helps you to practice lifting heavy weights, increases the strength of your tendons and ligaments, and makes your bones harder and denser. Then we also have speed, power, and agility blocks, where this is the place where you stay athletic or reclaim your athleticism. So you have that balance in your step. So you feel agile, not just strong, but athletic. Rotating your training emphasis strategically allows you to get lean without burning out. It allows you to lift heavy and get strong without frying your nervous system. And it allows you to stay athletic, not just strong or muscular and lean. So the truth is, you're not too old to train. You're not too old to lift heavy. You're not too old to be athletic. Your best days aren't behind you. You just need to switch up the way that you approach achieving those things. And that's going to be the subject of the next video that I make. I'm going to show you how rotating helps you to achieve these things that I'm talking about here. Hey, if you're a guy in your 40s who wants to continue training hard without feeling beat down all the time, go ahead and hit subscribe. This is the place where I show you how smart, structured training helps guys in their 40s to get lean, stay strong, and move like an athlete without spending their time in the gym, all their time in the gym, or feeling beat up all the time. If you got value out of this video, go ahead and hit that like button so more men in their 40s can learn how to train smart for those same goals. Get lean, stay strong, and perform better in life.